Now 5:30 on this January 25th. I'm Jonathan Martin.
And I'm Aisha Howard. We thank you for being here with us and also streaming on 11 Alive Plus.
Yeah, once again, we have team coverage for you today from Metro Atlanta all the way up to White County. We are making sure you and your family can stay safe and really up to date as these conditions are changing.
And first, we want to get you straight over to our meteorologist, Chesley McNeil, and also along with Nicole Hartford this morning, tracking the very latest. Chesley, we're in the thick of it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been coming down as far as freezing rain and or sleet, maybe mixing with some of the areas, at least for the last 4 or 5 hours. We've been seeing that, especially from Atlanta up toward the north and east. This is a live look at the airport there, and cars have been getting around at least. So at least passable on the roads. There have been some reports up here that there has been some icing taking place on some of the surfaces. So we've been watching for that as well. But by and large, folks are able to get around and do what they have to do, I guess, and even help to clear some of those runways as well before the activity really starts to pick up, if it starts to pick up today. We're also watching the road. It's just outside our studio here. You see that camera bouncing around a little bit because of the wind. But this is I-85. These cars would be heading down south, headed toward the city, and then up to the north on some of these other roads. And you can see where they're elevated. So if you look at these elevated surfaces, this is why we have it kind of closed in on here, because typically it's elevated surfaces that will freeze first. Okay, typically the ground will lose its heat all at the same time, but because elevated surfaces aren't insulated, they lose their heat rapidly, and so they tend to freeze first. But so far, we've been watching this. Cars have been getting around. Hopefully they're going slow. I can't tell the speeds that they're going, but they've been getting around so far because people have to get to where they have to get to, maybe an emergency worker or so. Here is the radar. I've been watching this as well. We watched that wedge as it continued to stretch a little bit further down to the south, down as far south as Atlanta, even south of that, down into Henry County, now into parts of Spalding County and Butts County as well. We're seeing that colder air begin to reach that far south. And so we've been looking at the freezing rain as it's coming down. We've got reports coming in, trees down in some spots. Got a nice little glaze on some of the roads in some spots as well. Emergency management out and checking some of the things, taking pictures as well, sending those into us. And as we get those, we'll try to get those to you as well. You notice over here toward the east, you run into these purple areas instead of the pink. Over toward Commerce, Toccoa, these are white areas as well. That could be a little bit of snow mixing in with some sleet that is coming down. Sleet definitely, and then freezing rain and sleet. Places like Juneau, over toward Canton, down toward Beaufort, into Roswell. You're looking at freezing rain for the most part as it continues to fall. Certainly down into the city as well. Just outside our studios on the railings, we've been seeing some of that ice begin to form. Saw some pictures of that as well. Forest Park down toward Clayton County, over toward Covington, into Madison as well. All freezing rain, folks, and it has been doing this for a little bit of time. Anywhere from light to moderate rainfall and freezing rain moving up through the northeast. You can see where the back edge of at least the steady freezing rain will come to an end here probably within the next hour or so. We'll start to see that. This was stretched all the way down into Montgomery. In fact, down toward Montgomery, they had a couple lightning strikes, a couple thunderstorms there. This is all lifting, so we'll get scattered precipitation as we head through the rest of the morning. And I think it'll be off and on right on up here from Atlanta up toward the northeast as well, with some of that freezing rain coming down. Where we have that freezing rain, you can see the temperatures are down into the 20s in a lot of spots. You got Gainesville at 26, 29 degrees in Canton, 29 up toward Clayton, 27 degrees over toward Athens, right at 30 in Covington, so you're just below the freezing mark, right at the freezing mark in places like Marietta and Atlanta, 33. A degree above in Peachtree City, 32 over toward Carrollton. We're over here to the west, so from George's Rome all the way down toward LaGrange. So far, we've just been seeing all rain. Again, Carrollton right at the freezing mark, so maybe some mixing taking place there. So we'll be continuing to watch that. And you're probably thinking, okay, well, where we have those 20s, why isn't that snow coming all the way to the ground? Well, it's because we have warm air aloft, or at least over our heads. Now, if we stayed warm all the way down to the surface, say, for example, the temperature at 37, 40 degrees, then that's all rain. We have a thin layer of cold air here at the surface, barely making it up into the atmosphere, but right at the surface, you got temperatures in the 20s. And so as that rain comes down in that warm layer, once it gets down to the surface, it'll freeze on contact on a lot of elevated surfaces and on some of the roadways as well. A little bit more of a cold layer with that warm layer aloft, that creates the sleet. So as the liquid falls into this cold layer, it has time to solidify and become sleet where it bounces off the ground. So you have more of a coating on the ground where you can see the sleet. You can push it around with your foot, for example, where with the freezing rain, once it makes contact, you're sliding your foot along that particular surface. So that would be the difference in the precipitation that's falling. And we've gotten reports of not only sleet, a lot of freezing rain around, and even a mixing taking place between sleet and freezing rain. Look at the road temperatures. Above the freezing mark in a lot of spots, only down around 400 near Buford Highway. Last reading we got was a 30-degree reading on the road temperatures there. And then up here into Rabun County, you're looking at 31 right along I-76. Everywhere else above the freezing mark, 35 over into near Covington on I-20, 36 on I-20 near Villa Rica, and then further south you go, obviously it warms up a little bit more down toward Troop, Meriwether County. Temperatures, road temperatures are in the 40s there. Ice storm warning continues until we get to Monday morning, 10 o'clock. Monday morning is when that will expire. But we're looking at, generally speaking, anywhere from about a quarter of an inch of ice all the way up to a half inch of ice. And then it's up here toward the northeastern corridor that we could see a half inch of ice up to maybe some pockets where we'll have an inch of ice. Just to the south of the ice warning areas, we have a winter storm advisory. Some icing taking place here, probably up to 1/10 of an inch of ice, and so it will be tricky to navigate on those roads if you're trying to get out and about, folks, so keep that in mind. Here's how we break this down. So when you talk about 1/10 of an inch of ice, you're talking about a light glaze, really, showing up on spots like sidewalks and some of the roads out there. You got to be careful even walking around because there are some slick spots, again, on some of the sidewalks, and also ice will start to accumulate on some of the power lines and also on some of the trees. We've already got plenty of reports of that, so I think we've been at the 1/10 of an inch stage, now heading up to the quarter of an inch stage, and that's where it becomes very problematic for us, right? Navigating on the roads becomes very tricky. All right, almost dangerous, especially on some of those elevated surfaces, those off ramps and on bridges. Some of the bridges will be around the area as well. Really tough to navigate on that. Even the roads become tough to navigate because if you come to an abrupt stop, you could be sliding out there. Trees and power lines will start to bend and sway. Some of those will start to crack as well with a quarter of an inch of ice. And once you get up to a half inch, that's when it becomes very crippling. Can't get around because the roads will be shut down in some spots, and where they're not shut down, hard to navigate on those because you have half an inch of ice out there or higher. Power lines start to snap or break, and so long-term power outages are certainly possible when we get up to a half inch or higher when it comes to that ice. Look how large the system is. Right? Stretches all the way back into New Mexico, all the way up as far as Maine. That pink area that you see there is a lot of the winter storm warnings that we have out there. So you're looking at anything from snow up here to the north, southern portions of Ohio, in fact, central portions of Ohio, extending downward into northern parts of Kentucky. That extends all the way back into parts of Dallas, Texas, as a matter of fact. Just ending the snow there. You got a layer of rain and sleet in here, freezing rain and sleet, rather. And then the further south you go, that's where you run into all rain. As that area of low pressure continues to lift north, we're hoping that some warming will begin to take place. Here to explain that, and keeping my fingers crossed, Nicole, that it's going to happen later on this afternoon. Talk to us about it.
Yes, we're really depending on a little bit of a warm-up later today as we go into the afternoon and evening hours as our wedge kind of erodes across the area. That warmer air would help to transition not only the freezing rainfall back into cold rainfall, but it would also help maybe to allow some spots to melt a little bit into this afternoon. We've been seeing emergency managers already posting in a lot of locations up towards White County, Forsyth County, where roads are nearly impassable. In White County, they are saying do not leave your house. They're starting to hear the sound of snapping tree limbs, but so far have not reported any power outages. Also in Alpharetta and Johns Creek, emergency managers have reported there that roads have rapidly started to freeze over. So this is slowly working its way down towards the south. Here's the setup right now. We've got this area of low pressure that's really kind of the focal point for this winter storm. To the north of it and out towards the west behind the front, we've got cold air that allows for snow, and then in our neck of the woods, the colder air, but with warmer air at the surface, or warmer air up in the higher levels of the atmosphere, which allows for that freezing rain. Now, as this comes a little bit closer to us, it's going to pull in some of that warmer air up from the south in the Gulf, allowing for a little bit of a warm up. But how quickly we're able to jump back up above freezing and where our temperatures temperatures are able to drop, to climb back up above freezing, will have big impacts to what our final ice accumulation totals end up being. Because another big factor at play for us is the wedge. That's when we have high pressure that pushes in all that cold air, traps it up against the Appalachian Mountains. And in order for this warmer air to come in, the wedge has to erode. As we introduce warmer temperatures, we also bring in the possibility of a couple isolated thunderstorms. There's a severe weather threat later today down towards the south of us, and that does include portions of our far southern counties in that level 1 risk for severe weather, down into southern Troup and Meriwether counties, as well as Polk and Lamar, and then down into Upson County. That's where we have that level 1 risk for an isolated storm that could bring about some stronger wind gusts. So here's how our forecast track plays it out hour by hour. And keep in mind, temperature here is key. Even a change of a couple degrees can have a big impact on the type of precipitation actively falling and therefore the ice accumulation. Our forecast model is showing still below freezing temperatures for many of the areas, still picking up on freezing rain, sleet, kind of a wintry mix throughout the next couple hours. So it's not until the sunrise that some of that warmer air starts trying to work its way in. Notice those temperatures out towards the southwest start to climb a little bit by 9 or 10 o'clock this morning, whereas the rest of the area is still in the freezing rain, sleet kind of wintry mix. So that means, according to this forecast model, we've got at least 3 more hours of additional ice accumulation. And for spots, especially around Metro Atlanta, that road temperatures, surface temperatures aren't yet cold enough to sustain icy roads. We'll start to see that kind of sink down towards the south as well. So we start to see slicker spots on roads as the morning progresses. By about 10, 11 o'clock, temperatures may manage to climb just barely above freezing in Atlanta as our main line of showers and storms starts to work its way in. So notice temperatures out towards the west at this point jump up all of a sudden into the 50s down towards LaGrange, 40s in Thomaston. Meanwhile, still freezing rainfall out towards the northeast of the city. That's where our highest ice accumulation totals are expected, and this is exactly why. Because while other locations will transition back from a freezing rain back to a cold rainfall, spots out towards the northeast are going to stay with the sleet, freezing rain, kind of wintry mix even into this afternoon as this main line of showers and storms comes through. And keep in mind, notice how there are quite a few pockets of some heavier rainfall. That means heavier freezing rain and heavier sleet for those out towards the northeast as well. Now, some spots into perhaps as far northeast as Forsyth, Hall counties, we may just barely get above the freezing point as we get closer to 4 or 5 o'clock, which is best case scenario. It would allow for perhaps a little bit of melting, but in spots up towards the northeast, you're not getting rid of all of that ice, even with a couple hours of above freezing temperatures. By 6 or 7 o'clock tonight, that main line of showers and storms is to the south. We may have a couple showers that linger into this evening, but overall conditions dry out a lot into tonight as far as actively falling precipitation. We will, however, be left with all the water from the rain, from the freezing rain that we're anticipating throughout the day today. So combine that with Arctic air that's going to be sinking southward tonight and into tomorrow. Anything still left on the ground tonight, even if it's not ice at the start of the night, will freeze by tomorrow morning. Low temperatures by tomorrow morning fall down into the teens and the 20s. Feels like temperatures will be down into the teens and the single digits. So we do have cold weather advisories in place for Monday morning due to this dangerous cold. Winds will also stay breezy throughout the day today. That really just exacerbates the stress that is put on trees and power lines once they accumulate ice. And these gusty winds are expected to really linger through today and even into tonight and tomorrow morning. Chesley.
All right, thanks a lot, Nicole. Really appreciate that. We're talking about the impacts now, and we are looking at those impacts being very, very high up toward the north and east. And this is a new update here where you see some of that purple in there right along the foothills there. We're looking at some extreme impacts there where we could see some extra lifting there right there at the foothills. So expecting to see maybe some elevated totals there. Ooh. Again, getting up to about 1 inch in some of those spots. Everywhere else is high. That's extreme, but everywhere else is high from parts of Cherokee County. I'm sorry, this is Cobb County into Fulton County, Forsyth County, Dawson County, further off toward the north and east. Gwinnett now included in that high risk area as far as those impacts go. And then down toward Atlanta, once you get into the city, that's where you have the moderate impacts or medium impacts. That's that orange area there, maybe up to about a quarter of an inch, a little bit higher, maybe up to a half inch in some spots, few spots there. But we could see as much of an inch in some spots once you get into like Hall County, into parts of Banks County, Lumpkin County, White counties, up to the far north. And so we were watching for that as well. Let me know when you got that picture ready. I do want to show that from DeKalb. That's a beautiful picture there. I say beautiful, but some of that ice that's forming even closer to the city. You don't have very, very many reports, but at least a tenth of an inch of ice starting to form on some of the elevated surfaces out there. And it's a good illustration of how that's taking place on some of our street lights, all right? And so even driving or even walking of that, some of those could start to fall on you folks. So you just don't want to be out in something like this. Already we're starting to see slickness on the sidewalks. You're starting to see some of the slickness on the roads, and those icicles may start to fall, especially as that wind starts to pick up as well a little bit later on this afternoon. So something else that we'll have to be on the lookout for as we're heading through much of the day today. When we talk about those impacts, right, it doesn't take much to really weigh the power lines down. Ice is very, very heavy. Okay, and so you're talking about a half inch of ice on a power line would be equivalent to 500 pounds. All right, as that starts to weigh down those power lines, it'll start to bend some of these power poles, if not snap or break those, or even the lines themselves, right? When an icicle forms on the lines, or when the ice forms on the lines, it forms like a teardrop, and so you get the wind that blows around that, and it acts as kind of like dumbbells. It blows these together, and so they start to clash together, which also causes those breaks in those power lines. We also are concerned about the roads, of course, roads losing their heat. Usually we'll lose it equally, but an overpass, like a bridge, the air gets under that. So now you have that cold air all around the bridge, and so it loses its heat faster there. So these would be the surfaces that would freeze first, okay? And so when you're going over a bridge, you may want to take your foot off the gas a little bit and make sure you just kind of get past that before it's sliding into something, because no doubt there'll be some patches on some of the elevated surfaces like our bridges and our overpasses. So you're looking at the cold air that comes in on the backside of this. So even after the precipitation is all done, all said and done, we'll still be feeling the effects because of that cold air and the winds that will start to pick up on us a little bit there. All right, so some cold air staying in place for Monday. In fact, I think we'll stay cold all week long. Keep in mind, our average this time of year should be in the 50s. We're going to stay right near the 40-degree mark for the rest of the week, but at least it will be dry. Guys, back to you.